All right. Good late, incredibly late, later than normal afternoon, folks. As one Crookshank here, your one and only move swiftly speaker, former Division One college football player and current five-time, soon to be six-time published author, back for another Stay Hired Sunday. You guys see it right there, the Mother's Day edition. I had quite the festive morning, FaceTiming my own mom, my sister. Going to church with my girl and doing a lot of different things. I actually ran 10 miles this morning too, so it was a
Oh,
very
great.
festive morning. So I texted Kimberly knowing what I had to do the next day, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to push it back till later." And she obviously had some things to do with her mom, so we're here. We will keep it for about 20, maybe 20 to 25 minutes, depending on what it is. How deep we get into the weeds here. But before I go too far, let me allow Kimberly to come on, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you had a great Mother's Day with your family and your girlfriend. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
right.
My name is Kimberly Blue, founder and owner of Art and HR Solutions. And we wanted to bring you an unusual edition today,
Yes.
different than our different topics, and
Yes.
talk about, it doesn't have to do just with mothers, but parents and caregivers today.
Yes, and just to make this point, I made sure I left this out of the conversation before we started recording, but it just gives you an opportunity to see how authentic and raw and impromptu these sessions have become and how much we've grown. Because my plan was actually so Kimberly sent me two articles that I wanted to read live on air today. And I was planning on doing that today to make sure it's authentic and my reaction to it was going to be raw and uncut. And then she texted me earlier today to confirm this. And I was like, this is my response. I was like, oh, it would be the perfect topic to talk about. So we'll do that next week. And before I go any further, I got to give a shout out to all of our LinkedIn listeners. I've been noticing, I've seen the numbers are going up. When we do this work, so much of it is about figuring out who's listening, what the best platforms are, where to post the clips and all these kinds of stuff, because these things or these resources aren't just unlimited, they're limited, and we got to put our focus on the people that actually matter. So shout out to
Yes.
the LinkedIn followers, man. Y'all have been keeping up with this, and we're getting more and more and more with the power of AI and my ability to actually do more outreach throughout the week. So appreciate you guys listening to on YouTube and Facebook. Shout you guys out as well. Keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing, keep following in whatever capacity you can. All right. So, as far as why I got so excited about today's topic is not just because it's Mother's Day, but I do work in education. I tell people all the time, look, the three industries I've worked in, athletics, fitness, and education, you get your just a group of mothers who are simply just, I mean, don't get me wrong, you get some really bad ones, right? That come into workforce, but you do get some ones that a lot of them that are really working as hard as they can, and they're getting very little credit. In fact, today, that's what the sermon was all about. There's so much work that they do on a daily basis, and they get very, very little credit. Now, you as a business owner, the way you look at that is to say, hey, if my interest is building a solid company, you have to see value in their ability to be diligent, their ability to lead, their ability to be organized, their ability to simply have to do the work. So you came up with the topic, and I'll let you go here for a little bit in terms of where did it all come from, where to start, how did bring us all up to speed in the HR solutions world, and how were you able to create this?
So, it started with being a single mother. And,
Hmm.
when I was starting my career, there wasn't much support, and
No.
we've touched on that before.
Yes.
And it's become increasingly obvious that we are missing not only on supporting our employees that we currently have, but actually we're attracting talent that is
Hmm.
untapped. We have a whole workforce that is untapped
Hmm.
and we don't dive into because they've been out of the workforce, right?
Right.
So 32% of employees in the US state that they're also caregivers of some type. Okay.
Hmm.
70% report that they are burnt out for not getting the support, and 60% will leave their jobs before asking for support. So
Wow.
that tells you that we have a big opportunity to not only support and retain our parents and caregivers,
Hmm.
but also to attract this talent that you may think they lost their skills, but they actually increased it.
Right.
Think about what they have to do when they're a parent or a caregiver.
hmm and to that point, I want to make sure we also bring this up is they are things that the problem is the world doesn't see being a stay-at-home mom or a single mom as a glamorous career or see that as a job. When I beg to differ when it comes to that in terms of what you have to do every day, dropping the kids off to school, feeding them, cooking them, cleaning the house, and doing it all over again every single day. These are activities in which are going to make you a very viable employee if they're used and they're seen in the right way. And that's where you, as a business owner, you have to make sure you are catering to those needs and catering to those strengths. And on that end, though, the question I would have for you, because a lot of what I hear a lot of business owners say and a lot of people that have hired mothers say is they never have the time. They're always at a situation at work, or they're always not at work, but they're always in a situation with the kids where they can't show up. They're not there. In fact, there was one mother when I was working at kinder care. There was one mother who would always have to pick up her son because he was just out of hand, and the job told her straight up, "You have to leave again. We will fire you." It got that bad to the point where
It does.
we had to kick the boy out because the mom she couldn't keep her job because she kept having to pick him up. And at some point, an owner or a manager just has to make a difficult decision. So when you seeing that you've been in that situation, how do you navigate that objection that I'm sure a lot of mothers are facing every single day when they're looking for work?
Not even that objection. I remember being that person who was being called, you need to
hmm
come pick up your kid,
Right.
and I worked 45 minutes away,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
a tough thing. I
and
mean, my goodness, I could only imagine because I mean, now that I'm thinking about the kid, it was every single day, and it was so tough. Luckily she worked not too far, but now you're saying 45 minutes away. That's like, jeez, I mean, that's a difficult time, a challenging time to go through. I'll leave it at that.
it is. And so when you think about it from a business perspective,
hmm
have innovative, out of the box thinking.
hmm
Just because a job is 8 to 5 normally, what if it's, at 9 to 6 or 8 to 6? I think that bringing workplace flexibility in is
hmm
so important. You have to be flexible, not only for the parents and caregivers, but just life in general, right?
hmm
And so, and thank you for showing this. So, what I created here and the resources that I gave for parents and caregivers who are looking to re enter the workforce is a template resume that you can utilize along with a toolkit.
So I am getting it ready. So, are you seeing it on the screen, by the way?
I am, yes.
Uh, so, all right, good. All right, now we'll sometimes. All right, Sarah, go ahead.
Yep.
By the way,
So,
so if you're listening to this on the podcast, by the way, I put up an image or the template titled Strategic Career Reentry Toolkit, which is something that Kimberly did graciously create for this. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, that's what's up right now. Just contact me directly or Kimberly if you're interested in getting this for yourself and stuff like that. So go ahead.
this gives all the information that I've stated about caregivers. So this is not
hmm
just for those that are looking to reentry. It does have statistics and resource links at the bottom. And of course, my contact info if you'd like to partner with me.
hmm
And getting untapped, you think about the skills that parents and caregivers have. Think about multitasking. What
hmm
does that equate to? It equates to project management. They have to be a good budgeter. They have to have conflict resolution, remote learning. They advocate for their kids. So I do have some skill transfer matrix there to help support and
hmm
building the resume as well.
Yeah, and again, if you are listening to this on the podcast, I strongly recommend you go over to YouTube or wherever you can see it visually. But it actually has prompts for you to put on your resume. It has things that are transferable. It has situations in place where you don't have to take a job that's 45 minutes away. You don't have to be in a situation. A lot of, again, thought leaders and the people that constantly do this work every single day. We're just telling you the stuff that we had to go through. We're just telling you literally the mistakes of the stuff that we actually have to live through so you don't make the same mistakes. And as you look at this template and this toolkit, this right there can be the situation, at least give you the confidence to go out into the real world. Listen, I'm dealing. I've been there. I know that. I know it from so many different lenses. Whatever happened with the personal relationship, it's making it so you can't work anymore, even if you're still with the significant other or whatever it is. It is a tragic situation. I'm 1,000% sure of it. But that does not mean you just need to give up on life. There's so many things that you can do. You just have to figure out what are you going to be a genius level. What are you going to be able to do that gets you by, and can you be persistent enough? All right, when you look at those babies, when you look at those young people, that's your reason. They don't know anything going on. They sitting around just smiling and playing and having fun and you got to get into the right energy. And I'm not telling you anything that's easy, but it's also very, very important that you give it your best every day. So that is the toolkit. Now you also have something here called the reentry resume. So are you basically creating a resource in which people, and it doesn't have to be mothers, just anybody looking to re-enter the workforce, they can use the toolkit to build their resume. I'll let you kind of explain this a little bit.
It is. So if you scroll down on the resume a little bit, I put an example there. Someone that's been out of the workforce for,
Hmm.
whatever amount of time. I worded it in a way, and if you
Ah,
look
okay, I
at
see it.
the skills over to the right, I put an
Hmm.
example there for you of the skills
Yes,
that
right
you
here.
kept on, which could be used in any type of work. So if
Hmm.
you're a business leader, right, and you are looking at this and thinking, how does this apply to me? Well,
Hmm.
let's think about this during COVID, and we talk about COVID still because it impacted so many people.
Hmm.
But did you know that 3 billion women
Hmm.
left the workforce during the pandemic? 3 billion.
What do
That is
you? Yeah,
significant.
yeah. That's what I was gonna ask you. What do you think, based on your professional experience, what do you think made it so that that individual group was targeted, or that made it so that it was that many women? What do you think
Because
attributed to that?
who is going to watch the kids?
Ah, because people have to stay at home. Huh. Wow.
Who's going to watch the kids? And the companies are scrambling, to put in place, a work from home that really wasn't established before, if they could. But think
Right.
about the retail space.
Hmm.
How could they do that? Now there's different things that you could do, but we're much better at it now
Hmm.
than we were during the pandemic. But how many of those 3 billion people have
Hmm.
returned to the workforce? And that's where we're missing the mark and supporting those that have because they're still struggling.
Hmm.
27% scaled back hours went from full time to part time,
Right.
and because of their caregiving responsibilities. You think
Hmm.
about nursing homes, you think about hospitals, they were still going in, but there was no one to take care of those people when they got sick either.
Hmm.
So we're still feeling the effects of the mass exodus of the workforce, even
Right.
to,
Right. All right. Let's so what I did and what we normally do here, if this is your first time tuning in, just know that I do put in a I don't read the questions until we actually start recording, but I put in a list of 5 questions that a business owner would ask in Chat GPT, and then we answer them live on the spot. So this is actually my first time reading it as well. The first one we have, let's see, drum roll please. Dun, 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 dun. It is. What's been the biggest challenge you face or anticipate facing when re-entering the workforce after motherhood? I can tell you what I've seen, but I can't speak from personal experience on this. I can tell you, seeing it, living it, dealing, actually with the girl I have now, like telling me what it was like. I can tell you the the thing is you can no longer, and I hate to use the term dream, but you can't be unrealistic in your ambition. You can continue to have ambition, but you can't be unrealistic in terms of what you can do. All right, what is going to be something that you can build a career from? All right, the entrepreneur mindset. And that's why I was telling her, like, I have the entrepreneur mindset, you have the accountant mindset, and that's why it kind of works because I'm all over the place. Sometimes she's like, accountant mind, and we're able to kind of reel each other in from that perspective. So I'll let you take this one, Vera, because I could go for I could see a lot of different angles I can go.
so think about what is it that you want to do. We've talked about it before, so be passionate, about whatever it is that you want to do. And the challenge that we will find, or anyone will find that's reentering, is that a lot of companies are still in the mindset of you don't have recent work history, you
Ooh,
don't have a long length at a current or whatever company that you were at before. The
mhm.
biggest thing is the gap, the career gap. They call it a gap,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I've heard
right,
about
and
that. Yeah.
so remove that from from your vocabulary
Mhm.
completely
Right.
and say it's a transition. It's a
Wow.
career transition.
Wow. That's a big one. That's a big one. I mean, going from gap to transition is going to help a whole lot of people, folks. All right. That transition piece, if you're looking at it like that, you're seeing your young people and the work you're doing, whether it is just, caring for a sick child, making sure they go into the hospital, making sure they're getting medicine, making sure they're brushing their teeth, making sure they're doing their dress, whatever it is, all of those things can be transferable if you mentally take yourself there. But if you're mentally thinking that it's just a gap, or it's just not something that people want in the workplace, you're not going to value those small moments, those moments where you're making it so your daughter, your son, or your daughter is no longer crying. You're calming them down after a huge tantrum, right?
That's
All of
conflict
the
management right there.
Yeah, all of those things, right? I mean, listen, I deal with adults all day. Half of them, they throw the tantrums
They're
worse than
crying too.
and I have to be the one to taper it down. So, number two kind of leads into that. How do you balance the expectation of being a present parent while still pursuing professional goals? So this one, I could speak to, but I'll use the example of my mother on this because she would always tell me how difficult it was for me and my sister because my father has a pretty demanding career as an architect, and she would always say, look, that's why I have so much respect for the library because I drop you two off. Y'all would do story time. Y'all would do whatever it is y'all doing while she was studying for her CDL and being someone. She got her associate's degree and she was studying to get her CDL. And now she's running the transportation company in the post office. It's because it's me and my sister at a library. There's some story time out. Y'all enjoy yourself. And it just be her diving into the books and getting something that isn't glamorous per se, but it's the reason, again, we were able to go through college and put us through all the things that we needed as young kids. So that one I could speak to from the kid's perspective, not necessarily the mother's perspective. So there you are. The floor is yours for this one.
Kudos to your mom because nothing happens in this country without transportation and supply chain.
That's
So,
it. And it goes back to the first question, the first answer in terms of just finding something that's going to be stable and going to be needed today and then 3025 you're going to need
you're gonna need
transportation
it.
and you're going to figure it out. So account going to need this now and 4002 whatever it is, you're always going to need those things.
So, how do you balance that? It's hard to balance at all times. Don't be afraid to ask for support if you're already in the workforce. Okay, lean on, your HR, lean on your leaders and be open with them.
Mhm.
That's the hardest piece because if your leaders do not know what's going on, they cannot help you. And leaders, when your people trust you enough to come to you, be open because also the leaders have to balance business needs with helping the employee. And so everyone's doing a balancing act, but no one can help you unless you ask. And the answer is always going to be no if you don't ask.
Yeah, and that listen, and real business, the good ones that I've been around are very very cognizant and understanding of that because their business, like my business, it's our baby, right? It's our baby and our kid, and the way you look at your kids, the way we look at our business as well. So
Right.
there is definitely a connective tissue in that, but you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to ask. You have to, you gotta let your ego go. You have to let the ego go. It's not
Have
gonna work.
to.
It's not gonna work. So number three, this is number three. All right, what's one skill you've developed as a mom that workplace undervalues but shouldn't? I've kind of mentioned it throughout, just the cooking. What we saw today was a kid who's dealing with the tantrum again. As I always, one of the things I love the most about her is the way she's able to calm her kid down when a tantrum is going on. I tell her all the time, look, I've learned so much from that because I get a tantrum, I get tantrums, we start yelling at the whole thing goes it's crazy. But the ability to calm these tantrums down is something I myself need to do a better job of, being a football guy where that's all we do on the field. We throw tantrums, coach throw tantrums, players throw tantrums. It's just a tantrum fest. No, you got to understand the world's not a football field. So I'm
Right.
learning that myself.
Well, it's true, but you think about it, conflict resolution is a real thing. And so many people have such a hard time with that. And they're coming in, look, if you can handle a 3-year old, a 5-year old, and a 7-year old in the same room, you could really help your workplace. Okay.
Yes.
And also patience.
Hmm.
So much patience when you're a caregiver or a parent. And
Yeah.
so I think reframing stay at home mom, reframing caregiver,
Right.
reframing career gap, and just shine with the skills, not only what you acquired before, but what you acquired during
Hmm.
the time that you were out, and look at it differently. When you reframe your thinking about it,
Hmm.
it's gonna make you feel more confident. So take a look at the toolkit. I have a lot of good stuff and different reframing ideas in there.
Okay, this is number 4. What kind of support would you make your return to what kind of support would make your return to work smoother from employees, coworkers, and or family? Oof. Okay. So, what kind of support? I'll give you an example with this. It's not necessarily returning to work, but it's when I coached high school at Blake High School. The So our star player was I think he was going to be a junior, and he ended up playing at Temple, and he was being raised by a single mother, and he had this girlfriend that went off to Ohio State, and the head coach told him to break up with her. Like I remember him and the mom having that conversation because she was struggling with it. And the thing is, I bring that up because he, as the head coach, took that role that the father would have played and said, "Look, you're about to be a star. She's at Ohio State playing. She's doing whatever. Your mom can't necessarily say this to you because she's not a man and she doesn't know what's ahead. So just break up with her." And then I remember him, the head coach, and the mother having a really great conversation in regards to that because I was like, this is my first year coaching, so I was kind of a sponge, but I looked at it like, man, that's decent of you because you're helping her transition into this role as now she's the mother of a top recruit that's dealing with all these college coaches, and her son's head's getting swelled. It's a completely different world she's stepping into that she knows nothing about. And you helped her with the smooth transition by telling the young man, hey, you got a lot of stuff coming to you. Let it go, and focus on mom. Make mom your girlfriend right now because she's gonna have your best interest at heart with all these new opportunities. So it can work similar in the workforce. That's why I'm kind of curious to hear your answer to this one.
You hit it right on the head. That coach provided transition assistance.
Yeah.
And so many workplaces don't think about not only reentry, but think about when employees are on leave,
Hmm.
some type of FMLA, or they are coming from a career transition, or, just coming back from even any type of leave or vacation or anything.
Hmm.
We need to deep dive more into that transition phase, because
Hmm.
usually what happens is, here you go, here's your stuff, bye, see you later. Okay.
Hmm.
Let's think of different ways that we could do that. We could have a career transition support group, or ERG or BRG, that
Hmm.
helps those that are either reentry or coming back from leave. And whether that looks like a different schedule, or having a support buddy or something like that,
Hmm.
um, we can definitely elevate our game when it comes to transition services.
Right. All right. Final one. If you could write your own job description today, what would it include to reflect both your professional goals and your current lifestyle? Oof. Now for me, I do this all day, and I'll just tell you how I created this goal to become a play-by-play announcer for college football games because I know my main offer is employee development workshops for business owners, and I use the game of football to teach that. So me being in that position gets me in front of more business owners, and I get to watch the game of football and report on it in live time. So I always give that example when it comes to creating a job description for yourself. So whatever your son or daughter may be dealing with, and then whatever it is who would you need to get in front of, align that with something that you can create. You know, there's a ton of mothers I've spoken to and I've worked with over the past years that have children with disabilities, and they can't. The idea of them leaving their kid or working with educating themselves on a certain disability inspired them to get into the medical field and figure out how they can make that transition smoother. Okay, there's jobs in hospitals. There's things that we can work. There's certain things that you're going to need based on the personal need now and the professional goal. And that's kind of how I operate when it comes to that question. So I'll allow you to drop the mic on this one, Kimberly. I know you got something good for us.
So we talked about it before, hire for skills.
Yeah.
You know, just because you have a title, just because you have whatever you want to have,
Mhm.
there are some great caregivers and parents out there who have the skills to pay the bills.
Correct.
So from both perspectives, company, put your skills what you want, what is a must have,
Mhm.
and those that are transitioning, find out what you want to do, grab that job description, make that job description you,
Mhm.
and then use that skills transfer matrix and make your resume tailored for the job, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to see it. It's very similar to a veteran transition.
Yep.
You know, you have to put it into a language where employers understand. So
Yep.
there is no difference. It's just a different industry, if you will.
Yep.
So
And that's it. And before we actually close, I do have to mention that even though Miss Kimberly Blue was feeling a bit under the weather today, she still decided to show up and do it. This is give her a round of applause. We got it done. So
that's what
the
we
goal
do.
was,
That's what we
yeah,
do.
yeah, the goal was to kind of keep this under 30 minutes, especially seeing that it's a holiday. I want you guys, again, like I said in today's Move Swiftly Thought, all you mothers, absolutely enjoy your day. I'm one of the ones that believe that this holiday needs to be celebrated every single day. But hey, again, I believe that at some point you will get to a place, especially if you have a mother like mine, where you celebrate all mothers in a way every single day, because the work they do is absolutely just it's not you don't have the ability to thank them with words. It's just got to thank them with action. So all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon, unless you wanted to add anything.
Your mom did a great job. Number
All right,
one.
thanks.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
All
We'll
right,
see you next week.
all right, appreciate that. I'm sure she'll love that.